Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to another CPC Strategy hosted webinar, one of many during our Q4 e-commerce brand accelerator virtual summit. So if this is your first time with us, welcome, and we do hope to see more of you at future events, maybe today at our second summit presentation or future events, webinars in general. If this is not your first time, we do welcome you back, and we're happy to have you here again for another presentation. All of us here today realize Q4 and the holidays are right around the corner. So it's vital to ensure your digital media plan is optimized for increased visibility to convert shoppers during this most competitive time of year. In this webinar, 6 ways to retarget audiences using Facebook ads to maximize revenue during Q4, AdEspresso will be presenting on proven retargeting techniques that you should be using to guarantee success during this busy time of year. So before we jump in, I just quickly want to go over, let's see if I can, there we go. Want to go over other events from the summit. So as I'm sure you all know, yesterday we had CPC Strategy present on balancing e-commerce and Amazon strategies, Trustpilot on social proof and social marketing, and Nielsen IQ on marketing effectiveness and measurement. So today we have AdEspresso speaking towards retargeting, as I just mentioned. And closing our summit just 15 minutes after this presentation, we have Privy, who will be presenting on cart abandonment solutions. So after Paul's presentation today, I will be closing at the webinar, but ask that you sign back on for Privy's presentation. I know it's going to be worth it. That's going to be a great presentation as well. We got some good techniques today to go over. Bottom of the funnel. So again, before we do jump in and I hand it on over to Paul at AdEspresso, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Annalicia. I'm CPC Strategies Webinar Coordinator. I'll be moderating today's webinar as well as handling your questions on the back end. So I want to point out that there is a questions tab on the GoToWebinar panel. Feel free to submit your questions for our speaker through there. I will be queuing up all the questions so we can get to them towards the end of the presentation in our allotted Q&A period. Also, if you weren't able to make any of the sessions from yesterday, you can't make the one later today. You have to leave early on Paul's presentation today. Don't worry, rest assured, we will be sending out all session recordings and slides before the weekends this week, so no worries there. You can have those back as a reference. I also want to mention that we do have some additional resources available for download in the handouts tab. So below the questions tab, there should be a handouts tab as well. These are supplemental resources that we think will be great to have in addition to the presentations. I know AdEspresso attached one there as well. CPC Strategy has a couple there, so feel free to download those handouts as additional resources to you all. Lastly, I ask that you join in on a poll question that I'm going to launch right about now. It's really just to get an idea of who's in our audience today. I will be launching this to you all right now. Feel free to contribute. The question here is, during the holiday season, do you spend more budget than usual on Facebook ads? Do you rev up? Do you allocate more ad spend to Facebook? So the options are more, less, the same, or you don't run any Facebook ads at the moment. So I'll keep this going for a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how you all allocate your ad spend in respect to Facebook towards the holidays. So I'll keep this poll going. It seems like we got some solid answers here. I will close this now, share the responses with you all and read it out loud, as I know Paul might not be able to see the replies. So the majority say more. 53% spend more on Facebook ads during the holidays, 3% spend less, 20% about the same, and 23% don't run any Facebook ads yet. So hopefully Paul can dive into maybe why you should be running Facebook ads or how you can spend more ad spend on your Facebook ads during the holiday season. So with that, Paul, I will pass it on over to you if you'd like to introduce yourself and AdEspresso.
Hi Annalicia and hi everybody. Thanks for joining today. So yeah, I'm Paul from AdEspresso. I'm the head of education. As well as doing webinars and training like this, I also run a lot of ad spend for clients. So probably spend $1 to $2 million a year for clients. Also do coaching every day and campaign reviews. So I'm basically spending all day creating campaigns or analyzing campaigns. So you get really good idea across the world, across different industries, of what's working, what's not there. So really interesting poll there that it seems that a lot of people are ramping up budget, and so that's why we really need to get Q4 dialed in there, because that's where we are spending majority of our budget for the year, get a majority of our sales. We need to make sure it works properly. So what are we going to be going through today? Basically 6 retargeting strategies. We're going to be looking at some evergreen retargeting, which I'll define in a second for you, and then get a bit more involved with that, like how we can segment out those audiences, how we can like create a sequence, and then some going into audiences in a bit more detail, like email audiences, engagement audiences, and then an idea of what kind of offers to use for Q4. So before we get going into the technicalities, let's see where we are in Q4. So this is how things are offline, and we hope to replicate this online. There's a lot of money to be made. This is where everybody's in a buying mode. Cyber Monday, probably the biggest online shopping day of the year, but it's also very, very competitive. So let's go into that in a bit more detail here. This is some analytics from 2017, last year, for one of my clients. There's 2 lines here. So first of all, have a quick look at this turquoise line. This is the CPM, that cost per 1,000 impressions. So the baseline in October, and I could show you before it's the same, that they were paying, this is based in the US e-commerce client, around about $10 per 1,000 impressions. And let's see what it does. Once we get into November, it goes up and then stays high right until kind of like the last shopping day really for online. And we're there looking at something like $25. So we're looking at 2.5 times the baseline for CPM. There is some good news though. If we look at this line, this kind of orangey brown line, this is the cost per click. And we can see there, it's still quite stable, even though our CPM, our distribution is much higher, until we kind of get to kind of like Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday, and then into December there. So what it means is we pay a lot to get our distribution, but people are really clicking on everything and they're purchasing on everything. So get it wrong, you're going to be paying a fortune for distribution. Get it right, and people are really in a buying mode there. So one thing that we can do to really maximize our chance of success in Q4 is to be focusing on retargeting. This is where instead of just like reach out to people for the first touch, like cold traffic, we can be building deeper relationships. So why retarget? First reason is this is where your audience is. They're on mobile. So 91% of Facebook ad revenue comes from mobile. It's huge. Everybody's like in the queue at Starbucks, they're out and about there, and people will engage with your ad and they love what you do, but they just haven't got time to purchase. They haven't got time to look at the size and the color and find out their credit card. So what happens is they click through to the website, but they don't always purchase on first touch. And I know Privy are going to be covering cart abandonment in the next webinar. But just to give you some really quick figures, we're not going to dwell on this too much, but this is for one client out of 100,000 impressions that resulted in nearly 6,000 clicks, 3,000 products viewed, 538 add to carts, and then 158 gone through to checkout and 53 purchases. So 100,000 people results in 53 purchases. And at each stage of the funnel, we've got almost 10 times the number of add to carts as purchases there. So this is where people are interested. For whatever reason they don't buy, we need to get them back. So what we're going to look at first is evergreen retargeting. Now, what is evergreen retargeting? There's a lot of myth about this. It's actually very simple to set up these campaigns, and so we're going to demystify this on this webinar. If you just take one thing home, it's going to be this first section of how we can set up these campaigns. So an evergreen an evergreen campaign uses an audience that dynamically updates over time. This means that you don't have this static audience where you're just hammering them with ads constantly, where they get bored and we get ad fatigue. Instead, the audience is going to keep refreshing, so the same ad creative can be used time and time again. I've had some of these running for months, even years in extreme cases, and they should bring you a very high ROI there. Little kind of clip art slide here to illustrate. Imagine this is your audience. They're basically on a conveyor belt. For example, maybe they hit your website on day 1, we retarget for 7 days, and then they drop off. So that every time that we get new traffic through to the website, we're showing our ads to new people, completely different to having one audience that we just try and show ads to for several weeks or several months in advance there. So it's really evergreen retargeting. The key thing is that audience, is it has to be a dynamic audience that we use there. Now, there's quite a few of these, and we'll go through them in a second, but we're really looking at things like website custom audience. It can be through mobile apps, it can be engagement audiences, which we've got a section on. They update because there's a time window. So like I say, maybe people join on day 1, they drop off after day 7. What we can't use is static audiences. So this is where maybe you upload an email audience, but we have got some little tricks for you later on in this webinar on how we can make those dynamic. So there's plenty of audiences that we can use for evergreen retargeting. We'll just have a look here, and I really encourage you to go into Facebook Business Manager and go into the audiences section, press the button to create an audience, and have a quick look through them, dig through them. The amount of coaching I do where people are vaguely aware of the options but haven't looked at it for quite a few months or even a year, and things are changing fast. So dig through and see what we've got there. But to give you a really simple example, with a website custom audience, we could just choose in there all website visitors, and crucially, you'll see where I put the arrow there, put that time window in. So that audience is then going to be dynamic. We don't have to create it every 7 days. It's just going to update in real time there. So very, very simple to create that audience. Now, when we then use that into a Facebook campaign, we can just include that audience. So we just create that audience. It's usually available within a few minutes, and then we just plug that into our campaign there, into our ad set. And you can exclude purchases as well. We'll go through some more granular audiences in a second, but basically that's how we're going to set up our evergreen campaign there. So it's really that simple. So there's a lot of myth. People think it's so complicated. All we need to do is build a dynamic audience, put that into our campaign, and away we go there. So I've got 6 cats, so just showing you kind of like a little cat gif here to celebrate. It's so simple. We've done our evergreen retargeting. That's it. You can set these up within a few minutes there. So once we've got our head round setting up that first evergreen, and I recommend just, setting one up today, even if you just spend $5 on it, just get used to that concept there. And it's certainly what we want to do in marketing is save time. We want to be doing the fun things like doing more ad creative, or maybe we finish early on a Friday there. We don't want to be having to keep coming up with new audiences because the other one's saturated and things. So evergreen like that is going to save you a lot of time, as well as increasing your ROI, which is what we need in the holiday season. Now we're going to look at how we can get a bit more clever with this. So we could be segmenting these. So an example of what we could do with our funnel is maybe people that have just visited the website, we might show them an ad for 7 days, quite a weak audience, and maybe we just give them a small value offer like free shipping. We can then segment out the add to cart audience. They've taken action on the website. Maybe we give them a coupon code on there, and we can target them for longer because they're more interested in us. And then initiate checkout. This is the stage where they've gone through to the checkout, but for whatever reason haven't purchased. A very small but super valuable audience. Let's give them a higher offer to push them over the line. Let's retarget for a bit longer there. Now, how do we set these up? Very simple. So we've seen this slide before of just creating an all website visitor audience, put in your time window there. Now, if we this drop down menu here, that should have your pixels. Depends on your shopping cart, but something classic like Shopify, it splits it out into products viewed, add to cart, and initiate checkouts. So just choose from the drop down like add to cart, put in your time window. It could be the same, but generally I'd target them for a bit longer because they're going to be more interested there. And of course, you're going to need to experiment what works for you. What we can then do from this is we could create that initiate checkout audience. So again, just choose from the drop down, put in the time window there. You can create these in seconds. They're free to create. They're going to dynamically update, so you just create them once. So just create as many as you want with different time windows there. I sometimes have quite a series of time windows, so I can just pick and choose when I'm creating my campaign. Now, the really important thing there is to then map these out. And as Annalicia said, you're going to be getting recordings for this. This is where you don't want to be doing it in your head. grab a piece of paper here and just map these out, because this is where people get a bit confused, is that you've got your inclusion audiences and your exclusions. So for example, in the first campaign of 7-day website visitors, we just include all the website visitors there, but exclude people later in the funnel. So the add to carts, initiate checkouts, and the purchasers. Second campaign for add to carts, this is where we then exclude the next stage. And then the campaign 3, initiate checkout, we just exclude people that have purchased there. So when you map it out there on a piece of paper, very, very simple. Once you've got to map it out and you've got your audiences created, very quick to plumb into Facebook Ads Manager there. So to give an example of this is using AdEspresso, but it looks basically the same in Ads Manager. But you've got your include audience. In this case, this is a 4-day website visitor audience. And then we're excluding 7-day add to carts, your 14-day initiate checkout, and your 180-day purchases. So once you've got that ready, very, very simple there. So as we're segmenting out by different interactions on the website there, another thing that we might want to do is show ads to people in a sequence there. Definition for this is very simple, that we're using those time windows that we've looked at, and then we can just show people, basically go and rotate some ads there. And I think it will all become clear when I've got a little case study for you next here. So this is a subscription box client. They do some very nice fair trade products, and it's all really about getting the subscription. Subscription box is so common these days, really, really popular. But they've also got an online shop if you want to buy individual items. So I'm just going to talk you through a sequence that's been used in the past there. So on days 1 to 4, people visiting the website, we can go for a 3-month subscription. That's going to be a nice amount of money. We're going to get people tied in there. So we're going to give them a nice coupon saying, hey, if you join us for 3 months, we're going to give you $20 off. Now, maybe those people haven't taken the bait in the first 4 days. We're not going to give up next. What we're going to do is on days 5 to 8, we're going to move things down a notch there. So what we're going to do is go and give $10 off. But we're going to lower the proposition and just say, okay, you only need to join for a single month there. So less commitment, a smaller offer there. Now, if people don't go and take up that offer, we're not going to give up even then. So what we can then do is on days 9 to 12, we can say, okay, don't worry about the subscription. We don't need that long-term commitment from you. Just buy a one-off item from the shop and we'll give you a free basket there. So we've reduced the commitment, we've reduced the offer there, because the audience is slightly weaker. And then after that, we're going to try one last thing to really kind of like get that customer there on our books. So we could do what I would call a tripwire offer. Not going to make us much money, just a little $10 item here, but it moves the relationship on from being a prospect to a customer there. So we can see that sequence there. We don't want to be showing $10 ads to people that have just visited our website, because we might miss out on that big purchase there, but we can use them in a sequence there. So think about what you could use for your individual business. Now, again, it's all about mapping this out. So just don't try and do this in your head. Use a piece of paper. There is free software like Funalytics where you can drag and drop icons. I know that's really popular now. I also use things like Lucidchart. I think that's like $5 and you can build out nice flowcharts, but just map this out, map out that user journey. Again, we just create these audiences and then plumb them in. So for example, we could have an audience of 1 to 4 day website visitors in first campaign with that first offer. Second campaign, we have our 1 to 8 day website visitors and we exclude days 1 to 4. And this is where people get confused. They say, how can I target people from days 5 to 8? You can't specify that time window in Ads Manager there, but so simple. You just create the 2 audiences and exclude one and include the other. And then of course, for days 9 to 12, we just go through that again. We just have our includes and our excludes there. So again, this is how we'd map it out, that we just put in our include, in this case, like 8 days, and then we could be excluding our 4-day and also our purchases there. So again, there's a lot of myths around this, but it's just so simple to set them up, that once you've got these audiences created, it's a couple of minutes to plumb this into Ads Manager there. Little tip on this, I want to be really strategic. Most conversions will happen when people have just visited the website. So make your best offer first, not last, as I showed you in that case study. People try and give away the little bit of value first, and they're trying to get quite greedy, and then they kind of up the offer later on. But what you'll find is the interest is going to be less the later on, since people visited the website. So actually hit them with your first offer should be the best offer, not the other way around there. So what we've done so far is cover 3 strategies there. Evergreen, how to go and segment out your audiences based on interactions, and how to sequence those. Now we're going to dig in and get a bit more geeky and look at some of the audiences that we can be using here. So 2 things, we're going to be looking at email audiences and then engagement audiences. So email audiences, let's dig into this a bit more detail here. The advantage with email audiences is you can use them forever. Is that the pixel audiences of website visitors we can only use for 180 days. So imagine somebody bought from you last Christmas. They're the audience that is most likely to buy from you again. We can't target them using our Facebook pixel, but we can do that with email. Now, there is some disadvantages to email audiences, is the match rate can be quite low. Depends whether it's business to business or business to consumer. But for consumer audiences, maybe a 60 to 70% match rate. A lot of people that use an email address when they're shopping is different to the one associated to their Facebook ad account. I've had a Facebook ad account for a good 10 years, and I've got an old email address on there, which is different to the one on my PayPal account and so on. So really what we want to use is do both. Use our email audiences and our website custom audiences. As we can see, there's pros and cons to both there. But what we're going to do now is just have a quick look at how we can create some of these email custom audiences. So I've got a really quick video for you here. So Business Manager, go to the blue button, go to create a customer file, and then choose to upload that customer file from a CSV. And so we just find an audience that's going to be suitable there. And once you upload that, make sure we've got a good name for it that you're going to remember later. And then what Facebook is going to do is it's going to try and match different fields. And like in this case, we've got a customer ID and Facebook thinks it's a phone number. So go through each one and don't assume that Facebook's intelligent enough to get it right. And like in this case, we've got somebody's last name and Facebook hasn't picked up on that. So go through this and customize all the fields. You could just upload emails, but the more detail, the more accurate it's going to be there. So once we're happy with that, go and upload it, and Facebook's going to create that for us. And it's going to tell us if there's any errors or if that's going to be fine. Generally available in a few minutes, sometimes a few hours. But yeah, just go and upload that CSV file, match all your data fields, and away you can go there. Now, like I was saying earlier, we want to be kind of lazy in marketing. Is we've got better things to do than keep exporting CSV files and uploading them. So how can we go and automate this for us? And that's where we can be using an email sync. And it goes in 2 directions. So if any of you run any lead ads where we capture leads on Facebook, we can export them to our CRM. But also main thing we'd be doing is going from our CRM like MailChimp, HubSpot, Infusionsoft, and exporting that to a Facebook audience there. This is website custom audience. This would actually be an email custom audience, little error there. But you get the idea, it's a custom audience. So we want to think, how can we automate this? How can we let the software do heavy lifting? We've got this built into AdEspresso. We've got, as you can see here, quite a few of the common CRMs there. So we've got that included there. Now, I'm not trying to do a sales pitch on this webinar, so there are plenty of alternatives to this. If you don't have AdEspresso, you could be looking at LeadsBridge. They seem to be adding more all the time. They've now got 380 CRMs that they integrate. Something like $29 a month with a yearly plan, and then goes up from there. So yeah, there is a cost involved, but it's saving you some time. Another thing you could use is DriftRock. I don't really have any personal preference there. Just go with one that's a well-known brand, because of course they're going to be passing your data on there. So we don't want some obscure app that's harvesting any of our data. Make sure it's one that's going to be compliant there, especially with GDPR these days. Another little tool some of you might have is Zapier. You can use that for syncing, but only in one direction, only from lead ads to your CRM, not crucially the other way from your CRM to Facebook. So a little bit limited, but if you've got Zapier there, have a look at some of the interactions that you can do there, especially where sometimes you can use Google Sheets as an intermediate there. That gives you a lot more options there. So just get the message there that, we can automate to see what we can do with software. The days of having to kind of export, import stuff are generally over unless you've got quite an obscure CRM, or maybe you just want to save some money there. So the last audiences that we're going to be looking at is engagement audiences. And engagement audiences, these are still fairly new. So this is if we look at going to create an audience on Ads Manager, tucked away at the bottom are engagement audiences. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, most people are kind of aware that they're there, but haven't checked them recently and are not aware of the power of these. So why Facebook's put in engagement audiences is they want to make sure that we can build deeper relationships with people, even though they might not have clicked through to our website there. Let's have a brief look at these so we can see there's 6 different types of, different categories there of those engagement audiences. And because most people aren't aware of those, I'm just going to show you some of the options. So when you go onto any of those categories there, you then get a drop down menu. You can see what there are. There's little tooltips to help you so you can find out more details about them. But video custom audience, this is really good for top of the funnel. Show people a video, people that have watched a certain amount of it, you can then segment them out and you can then retarget them. Brilliant. We can be retargeting people, building up that relationship and getting multiple touch points, even though they haven't clicked on anything. Really, really useful these days. Next one we've got, like we were talking briefly about with data sync, is people that have opened a lead form. So not something we're using so much for e-commerce, but maybe say you've got like a Kickstarter coming up, or you've got a big sale and you want people to get the preview of that. You might be signing up leads, but for example, maybe somebody's opened the form but hasn't submitted it. We could then go and retarget those people. Maybe some people, myself included, prefer to sign up things on a website rather than through lead ads. Hey, we've got another option to do that there. If you're using Instant Experience, that's the new name for Canvas ads, by the way. People that viewed Canvas ads but stayed on the website, we could be retargeting them. Probably the most useful one is engagement audiences on Facebook. So people that have engaged with our Facebook page, we can create these audiences. And there's a few different options here, and that's where you use that little tooltip. But generally, what I like to do is run competitions every week, run little giveaways, get people to like the post to enter. And then even though they haven't clicked through to the website, I can then build that audience and retarget them. Also quite useful for sometimes for top of the funnel is that if we're keeping people on Facebook, we generally get cheaper distribution, cheaper CPM. So quite a useful tactic there. And then with Instagram, you must have a business profile, but you can build some of those audiences there. And this is going to be really useful. Sometimes I do like a kind of like a 1-2 strategy. I can be getting lots of organic reach on Instagram and then retarget them on Facebook's mobile newsfeed when they're most likely to purchase. So have a look through some of these audiences. And last one here is events. I mean, this could be really good at Christmas time or Thanksgiving. Maybe you're running some in-store events there. People turned up, but maybe they didn't buy then. And so what we could then do is retarget those people that responded that they were going to that event and then give that offer. Hey, we saw that you came, you didn't purchase. Let's give you some free shipping now. We can deliver it to your door. So think about how you can build really simple funnels. We don't need something that's going to be, some complex 10-step funnel. Just a simple 1-2 process like this could be very good. Now, we've covered a lot here on retargeting strategies and we've gone through some audiences. So we're going to be finishing up now with some offers because, of course, we've been looking at the kind of like the strategies there, but we haven't thought about some of the ads. So we're just going to finish up by what offers we should be using in Q4. Now, there's kind of 4 offer types that you've got. Free accessories, the classic free shipping, which isn't like such a big deal these days, especially with Amazon Prime. Very simple money off or very simple percentage off. Now, we could probably have a full webinar on this, but for the sake of time there and interest, I'm just going to be concentrating on a case study here, free accessories. So before we get into that case study, just give you an idea of what's not going to work. And I just pulled this up from a website the other day, from a random hotel site. It's like, this is what we can't be doing in Q4, especially on Black Friday weekend. Stay 3 nights, save 5%. Like nobody's going to rush back to the website, drop what they're doing and get their credit card out and book. It's just not going to move the needle at all there. If we're going to be doing a discount, we need to make it a big discount. But I think we ought to avoid discounting too much if we can, because that really eats into our profit margins. So I think a better way is to be doing those free accessories. So the best way to illustrate this is with a quick case study there. This is a website, it's a sports apparel. I know rugby's not quite so popular in the US, but worldwide it's quite a big sport there. It's owned by a guy called Scott, and he's based in the UK, but he is shipping worldwide there. And so he's doing this rugby apparel. Now, really good thing that he's done for retargeting is rather than just giving a discount, giving some free add-ons there. So what happens with t-shirts is this here, this is £22, that's about $30. That's a reasonable price for a nice branded t-shirt there. But of course, if you get them made in bulk, get them printed, it's all about getting that volume, you can get them made for about $3. So what we can see there is we can give the customer good value, $30 worth of value. It's costing us $3. That's got to be better off than giving 25% off. That's not eroding our margins at all. Also, it's not devaluing the brand. It creates goodwill that people love getting free add-ons rather than us just going, hey, here's slap on a discount there. We're just cheap and cheerful. So I really like doing free accessories here, as long as you can find something where you're going to get that good margin. So how do you use this in retargeting? This is an idea of one of the ads here. Create a really sense of urgency. This offer is going to expire in 48 hours. Finish your purchase now and you're going to get that exclusive t-shirt. It's an exclusive branded t-shirt. Worth $30, and we're going to send it out to you, but you've only got 2 days to sign up. So that's what we're looking for in our ads there, is that free add-ons there. So we're not devaluing the brand, but we're creating that really good sense of urgency. So how do these figures look? Scott's using some sequencing here. So this is an add to cart audience. What we can see here is spent £5, that's about $7. And the main revenue there is £200 there, so well over $200. So you can see there that we're getting kind of like nearly a 20 times return on investment. This is a minimal amount. This is pocket money here that we're spending on these retargeting ads, but because we segmented the audience and we've given a really fantastic offer, we're getting loads of conversions, 13 conversions. That's going to be 40 pence per conversion. That's about 50 cents there. Absolutely nothing there per conversion. A lot of times in e-commerce, we could be paying it, 10 times more per conversion there, if not even more than that, maybe 20 times more. So we can see this kind of offer works here. I don't like to just give theory. I like to give practical, tried and tested strategies in this webinar. Also segmented out initiate checkouts. This is where people, as I explained earlier, have gone through to the checkout but abandoned before paying here. And again, we're looking at around about 10x, £23 spent, £255 back there. Slightly more cost per conversion, but £1.40, that's about $2. Absolutely nothing there as part of your marketing budget. So we can see this strategy is working well. So we're creating the goodwill with a free product. It's costing us a tenth of that retail price there. And really what you can do is think about applying it to your industry. So for example, if you're giving away maybe a nice pendant, if you're selling a nice pendant, some nice jewelry, maybe you can give away like the free chain with that. I know people buy those in bulk in thousands there from eBay or Alibaba or whatever to add on there. Quite often you see with like protein and sports supplements, they give away a free protein shaker. Again, they're going to get those made 10,000 at a time. They're branded, very, very cheap. If you're doing sunglasses, you can give away a free case, and so on and so forth. Just about every industry, there's going to be some add-ons. Maybe you've got some excess inventory. Maybe it's just something you can buy in bulk there, anything like that. So I really want to urge you to try that rather than just going for the lazy route of slap on a big discount there, because that's soon going to erode most of your profit margins. So I hope you find those tips useful there. And if you find some of that interesting, if you like the kind of layout of AdEspresso here, just want to give you a little offer here to say thanks for sticking with me during this webinar here. So we've got a exclusive offer for this webinar. You can get AdEspresso for 30 days for just $1. And this includes our top tier plans. I think we've got some plans that are like $500 a month, but we've also got reasonably priced ones, which are absolute fraction of this. We basically appeal to advertisers of all sizes, but give it a try, just $1 for 30 days there. And you can see there this URL. I think Annalicia is also going to put this in the emails, any links there, but basically university.adespresso.com/CPC-strategy. So quite a lot to take in there, but I hope you find that useful, and I hope you can see that some of those tips are going to be really quick and really actionable that you could set up within a day to get Q4 running on all cylinders, and also run a lot of stuff on autopilot there. So yeah, as I said, a lot to take in there, and I'd really like to go through any questions there. So just going to open it up to Annalicia and see if we've got any questions for today.
Hi, Paul. So yes, I did send out AdEspresso's offer link to you all. If you want to check your questions tab, if you haven't looked there already, I sent over the link, so that'll be easy for you all to follow. Paul, I wanted to thank you. What a great presentation. I know that our audience usually loves a how-to, and you really went step by step on creating these retargeting campaigns on Facebook. So thank you. Really amazing. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And you definitely cleared up a couple questions along the way, but let's get to some that we have queued up. So Lauren was wondering, in respect to your Evergreen retargeting, she's wondering what a website visit is defined as, and how does Facebook know this? Is it usually a company site website visit?
That's a really good question, Lauren. So it's all down to the Facebook pixel. So the pixel is a snippet of code, and that can go on any site that you have access to. So generally, you're going to put it across the whole of your site there. But I mean, you could, in theory, if you've got several sites, you could put it across several of those. And the real key thing is, if you haven't set up your Facebook pixel yet, do it now, because it can create an audience for up to 180 days, but it can only do that retrospectively if it's in place there. So just make sure that you put that in place. There's no downsides to it. It's completely free. It's a small snippet of code. It's not going to affect loading times. And what I'd really recommend is that the old days of having to manually edit the header code on your websites are gone. So for example, if you've got Shopify, you can just put in your pixel ID and it populates it all for you. The purchase, the events, the add to carts, everything's done for you. There are some other third-party solutions, like Google Tag Manager is quite a popular container for all of these things. And again, that can be free. Also, a little shout out. We created a great plugin for WordPress and WooCommerce. It's called Pixel Caffeine. Obviously, like keeping the espresso theme there, but just Google for Pixel Caffeine. And I don't mind putting this in here because it's 100% free. We've never charged for this, and we never will there. And I did this on a call with one of my clients that was just starting out. Within 5 minutes, we had downloaded the plugin and populated the site with pixels. So, you know, sometimes people are sort of hesitant to get going on this. They think it's going to be really technical, but 5 minutes work with a lot of these plugins, you can have your pixel set up, and it's going to revolutionize your Facebook marketing. So I really recommend that you get it in place as soon as you can there.
Great. And just to confirm, you need to have a pixel in order to retarget on Facebook, correct?
Yes, well, yes and no. I mean, generally you would have the pixel there. It comes free with your ad account. But as we saw in one of the sections there with engagement audiences, Facebook is aware that, you know, some people are not so much into getting clicks on the website. And so you could now just go and retarget people that have just engaged with you on Facebook or watched one of your videos. So if you are starting out and maybe, I don't know, you're getting a few sales through Messenger, or I know there are certain regions in the world where e-commerce is done through more like WhatsApp and things like that. There are some strategies we can now do where we keep people on Facebook with those engagement audiences, which is why I really urge people to go and check those out.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that thorough answer. Paul, we have another question here from Jonathan who's wondering, how much do you need to spend, say, a month on retargeting ads to see effective results? And I'm sure this is, an it depends answer, but what would you recommend here?
So the great thing here is you're going to get really good ROI. And what I really recommend that you do here is to set up those evergreen sequences with quite tight time windows. So what can happen, for example, what we don't want to do, and I've seen this myself as a user, is that sometimes retailers will target you with ads for 180 days. It's like, hey, I bought the product 5 months ago from eBay instead of from you. Um, the product's now worn out. It's no use to keep retargeting me. That wastes their money, and you get really bored with it. Just seeing the same ads. So really, if you create a tight time window, like we saw, you could be like 4 days or 7 days, or maybe we're sequencing them. The great thing then is we can put, let Facebook work out the budget for us. Facebook has got a built-in safety net for users. It really wants to protect that user experience. So for example, maybe I've got a really tightly defined retargeting audience of 1,000 people. Facebook, if I put in a really crazy budget, Facebook won't show ads to people 100 or 1,000 times a day or whatever. It will only show ads to people, it really depends on the placement, but generally once every 6 hours maximum, and then it gets progressively harder throughout the day to show more ads to people. So what I've done with some campaigns is I might say to Facebook, hey, here's a real high budget, spend what you can. So maybe I give it $100, it might only spend $10 before it saturates that audience for the day. But what that means is then, as I'm ramping up traffic throughout Q4, I'm not going to have to think, oh, I put in $10 today, I've got to put in $12 or $15. I'm just basically saying to Facebook, hey, spend what you can. Always that disclaimer on there. Only put a really high budget in if you have got really well-defined audiences with the time windows there. How it actually works out in practice probably ends up that about 10%, 20% of my budget spent on retargeting. It's not a huge amount of your budget. The costly bit is to get those new people through to your website. Quite a lot of the time now, traffic, especially in the US, might be $1 a click, sometimes even $2 a click. There is a big variation, but cold traffic costs a lot. To retarget to those well-defined audiences is quite cheap. So definitely spend as much as you can on retargeting within reason.
Got it. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Hopefully we gave you a good answer for that as well. Now we have a question here from Eddie, who's wondering if there's a benchmark in terms of CPA, I guess cost per acquisition for these types of campaigns.
Yeah, this is the really wide open question, and I think what we
Yeah.
what we're really looking at now perhaps is more the kind of ROAS, which is the return on ad spend. It's always difficult to put that number, but we're kind of looking for kind of 2x as a minimum. So if you put like $100 in, you want $200 out the other end. Quite often 3x. I have seen it in some cases 10x there, but it really depends on the product and how much competition and how good the offer is there. Like we saw with a couple of the examples there from Rugby Warfare, they were getting 20x, but they couldn't really scale that quite so much. Always there's kind of like a dial that the more you can scale things, then the lower your return on ad spend is. So that's what we really want to be looking at. Another little thing as well is, certainly if you're just starting out with this, I know a lot of people are new with Facebook ads, is something that's around about $40 or just under is what we might call a one-click purchase, which means, people see the ad, they click on it, and they either go and buy, or we can use those simple retargeting strategies. It's kind of a no-brainer. I've done this myself. I think, oh, that looks really nice. I click on it, I buy it, and then 2 days later, I've forgotten when it turns up. It's like, oh my God, what have I bought now? Whereas if we start going up to items that are, over $50 and certainly over $100 or $200, we need a lot longer funnel, and that's why we need to be sequencing our ads more, because people then start looking for social proof. They're going to be checking out reviews. It's just going to be a much harder sell. That's when people buy more, perhaps in store. So, if you're just starting out, they're kind of $40, one-click purchase is a really good place to really ramp things up for Q4 there.
Okay, great. And then the final question, maybe just to wrap it up, because I know we're going to hit the time mark here.
Sure.
But is there a frequency that you'd recommend for retargeting campaigns?
Yeah, and this is where I guess people sometimes have different ideas, but what I'm looking for is not the frequency per user so much, because like I explained, Facebook has got that daily cap. It's more how long I'm seeing, how long users are seeing the ads for. So, I mean, if you are just looking at frequency for maybe like you've got a, like a larger, broader audience, then um, sometimes you probably want to keep it under 3 before the results start going down, certainly under 10 there. But I think I would actually flip it around 180 and go, look, I don't really care what the frequency is. I don't care whether someone sees my ad 3 or 4 times a day, but it's how many days I'm going to see it for. If they've landed on my website and I'm going to give them that good offer for 4 days and then leave them alone, or maybe 7 days with a couple of different ads in a sequence, I don't think they're going to mind that. Where I get annoyed as a user is, a month after I clicked on the website, they're still showing me ads for this product. And like I said earlier, they've probably gone and bought it elsewhere. Maybe they got it direct from Amazon, maybe eBay, maybe the secondhand, whatever. Um, they're just not going to be interested then. So instead of worrying about the frequency so much, flip it around and think about how many days will people want to see your ads before they're going to get annoyed with them.
Okay, got it. Hopefully we answered your last few questions there, Eddie. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, so that about wraps it up for our presentation. I want to say a big thank you to you, Paul. Amazing presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed this one again. It really was just fantastic, and thank you so much for answering all of our Q&As with such thorough answers as well. Also, a huge thank you to all of you in attendance today. We understand that 45 minutes is extremely valuable to you all, so we're thankful that you chose to spend it here with us with AdEspresso and CPC Strategy. So thank you all. And once again, this is Annalicia, and I'm signing off from CPC Strategy in San Diego, and Paul signing off from AdEspresso in the UK.